So, Mr. Trowbridge, let's talk defense a little bit.
All right.
Because this is an interesting one, and I have two aspects of my breakouts or my potential game records in this game. One is going to be guys that I just want to see have a big game because I really think they're going to be needed over the second half of the year. And then my other one, and this is where we'll start, is there is one game record matchup that I look at because the guy on the other side of the ball can be a game wrecker as well. There's two, but the first one's the big one. And we saw this last year, and that is the matchup of Benjamin Morrison against Alec Ayomanor. And this is obviously their dude, right? I mean, he's a really good football player. Had a big drop. Well, actually, it was I should call it a drop. It's a pretty good play by the Virginia Tech guy, but I thought he should have been more aggressive attacking the ball on that. You know, it's play I'm talking about, the post route.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to do a better job attacking that football, but the Virginia Tech DB did a really nice job of fighting his hands through the backside and breaking that ball up. But it's a good football player, man. And this is a kid. I mean, you saw it. Even though his numbers this year aren't lighting the world on fire, he's got 24 catches and 317 yards and 3 touchdowns in 5 games. Those are good numbers, but they're not holy moly. This is unbelievably good. What a dominant player. But you go back and look at the Syracuse game. He has 7 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. But he won the game with just beating Clarence Lewis off the ball and catching a big play that got them into field goal range, that won them the game. So even though he wasn't, I mean, up to that point in time, I believe he was averaging under 10 yards a catch in that game. Because that was like a 20-something yard gain, right? And he had six catches for like 50, 60 yards before that, and he has that big play and he wins the game. So I mean, you're going down there and you're making the play when it matters. And so even though he hasn't put up like huge numbers, he's made some pretty clutch plays. He's scored a touchdown in each of the last 3 games against Syracuse, Clemson, and Virginia Tech. So this is a guy that if he goes off, as Travis Hunter in Colorado found out last year, and they're not the only ones. This is a guy who made his whole career off of one big game. Go ask Washington, the national runners-up, what they think of him last year when he caught 9 catches for 146 yards and a touchdown. Go ask Oregon State last year when he had 3 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown. This is a good football player. He had 7 catches against Notre Dame last year, but only went for 58 yards because Notre Dame shut him down. This is a big matchup, and we're going to see him go against both corners, but he's going to, at least the way they've used him so far, he's going to be matched up more against Benjamin Morrison. And so in this particular instance, he is a potential game wrecker for Notre Dame, which means Benjamin Morrison against Notre Dame, which means Benjamin Morrison can be a game wrecker against Stanford. Because if you can take this kid out of the game, and that's essentially what Notre Dame's defense allows the corners to do, you take that guy out of the game. I mean, it's just like, I don't know how every elite cornerback doesn't want to play in this defense. I'm serious. Other than just, I don't feel like going to class. It's one of the best corner coaches in college football, and you're playing in a scheme that literally says, dude, this is on you. Go ball. Go show everybody on the planet how good you are. I don't know how any corner doesn't want to play in this defense, and I think you're starting to see more top corners want to play in this defense, hence Dallas Golden, Mark Zachary, right, Christian Gray, those type of guys. But that's where this is at. It's, hey, Benjamin, Christian, but especially Benjamin, need you guys to shut down number 13. If he can't go off, I don't know how. I mean, I don't know if Stanford can, even with help from the Notre Dame offense giving them points, I don't know if they can score enough points to win this game if he doesn't have a strong performance. I mean, so that makes Benjamin Morrison the number 1 game wrecker for Notre Dame because he's matched up against the number 1 game wrecker for Stanford.
Yeah, totally. I'm glad you brought up Benjamin Morrison for a handful of reasons. One, there has been some discussion about him not being what we thought he was going to be. Now, by no means am I saying that Benjamin Morrison is bad. Not at all. But compared to his previous couple of years at Notre Dame, it's been a little bit lackluster, I would say. He's been beat a little bit in the inside in comparison to like all of the games where he's getting interceptions and things like that in comparison to previous years. So I think he has a really good opportunity and a really good wide receiver in Ayomanor. So I'm happy that you put him as a game wrecker because, I mean, one, it makes it a little easy because number 13 is the game wrecker for Stanford on the offensive side. So, yeah, I agree 100%.
I don't know that I would say he's not playing as well as he has. I think there's been a couple plays here and there. I think it's just, to me, it looks a little rusty. And kind of coming off of the injury and missing the spring and things along those lines. I think he looks a little bit rusty. But I will agree that he can play better. There's no doubt I think he can play better. I think outside of Northern Illinois, he's been pretty good this season. And in the last 3 games, if you look at Pro Football Focus numbers, he's given up 6 completions on 16 attempts against what I would argue is, the last 2 games, especially against the 2 best pass offenses they've played so far this season. So, but he has not had that. Here's where I will agree with you, Trevor. He has not had that dominant game, in my opinion, where we've seen him in the past where he was just like, holy moly, he's just dominating right now. I don't think he's had that. And this would be a great time for that.
Yeah.
It was. Because I think the one thing that Benjamin has shown this year is because, like, I've seen people say, like, he didn't play well against Louisville and he got bit. And I'm like, go back and watch the long pass play he gave up to Ja'Cory Brooks. As I said, grabbed his face mask and threw him down. Right? That should have been a penalty. Should never have happened.
Sure.
But he wasn't as sharp as he has been in the past. Even in that game, I still think he was good in that game. But he hasn't been dominant. And I think the expectation is dominance. This is the game where he needs to be dominant. And if he can be, Stanford's offense is toast.
Yeah.
Absolutely toast. Now, I'm also curious, how will Stanford do anything to try to get 13 over there matched up against Christian Gray? That's also something not because he hasn't played. I mean, I think Christian's been really good, but more so coming off of an injury,
sure,
younger guy. Can you take advantage of that? It's an interesting proposition to consider. What will they do to maybe move that guy around? Will they do some things to try to get him in the slot matched up against Jordan Clark? Do they try to do things to get him away from the Notre Dame corners? I'm curious to see if they do something like that, because I think you have to do that in this game. You have to do some things, because against Jordan Clark, who's been very good in coverage as well, but he's 3 inches shorter than the other corners. You know what I mean? Where maybe there's some size advantages, put him in the slot. I'm very curious to see if Stanford's going to do something like that, but they've got to keep him from taking over the game, in my opinion. And if you do that, then Stanford doesn't have much of a chance. My other game wreckers would be potential game wreckers, Trevor, would be the linebackers. And because I really like these young, and I'm right now for this top of this conversation, we're assuming that Ashton Daniels and Micah Ford play, because we don't know if they're going to play or not. The linebackers are going to be in space a lot against the running backs, Chris Davis and Micah Ford, and they're going to be responsible for a lot of the contain of Ashton Daniels. If they don't play well, you're going to see some big plays in the passing game to the running backs. You're going to see some missed tackles that result in some 15, 20-yard gains, and you're going to see Ashton Daniels in space because they missed their assignment or they missed a tackle, and that's how Stanford can get some of those chunk plays they need to stay in this game. That's kind of where I'm at when you look at this matchup. Now, if they contain those guys, again, Stanford has very little chance to be, because they're going to need chunk plays against Notre Dame to have any success. Any team that's had success against Notre Dame in the last 2 years has been a team that was able to create some chunk plays. You're not just going to consistently move the ball up and down the field on this Notre Dame defense. And the linebackers are going to be put in a lot of positions to limit Ashton Daniels and those running backs in space, in the scramble game, in the design quarterback running game. They're going to do a lot. They're going to run speed option. They're going to do a lot of different wrinkles. Number one, Trevor, this is what they do. This is what Troy Taylor does. He does a lot of creative things with backfield action in the run game and then backfield action in the throwing game. He's really creative with that. When he watches Notre Dame's team, he's going to say these linebackers are really talented, but they're young and they're prone to mistakes, especially if you get a lot of movement going pre-snap and then cross them up. He's going to come at them in some way. So throwing game and then, of course, tackling in space are things where the linebackers can either not play well, which then allows Stanford's best athletes to make some plays, or they play well, play assignment correct, tackle well, and Stanford's offense does nothing in this game. That's why I have the linebackers also as my next game record for the Irish, where in this particular matchup, they got to play well.
I agree. And I don't have too much to add on the linebackers. I think you hit all the points that I would have brought up. One additional game record that I would bring in, especially just based on injury to the Viper position, is getting some sort of pressure on Ashton Daniels in obvious throwing situations. So I know that we're kind of starting to bleed into that keys to victory territory, but I think one of the people who have a potential to be a game wrecker is somebody that's kind of, I don't want to say unknown, but has a chance to go out and prove themselves in that game, whether it be Bryce Young, Logan Thomas, a junior Tui Alamaka, Josh Burnham coming back into the rotation. Could be RJ Oben, who's deciding to come back onto the scene. So I think whoever is at one of the end positions has the opportunity to be a game wrecker as well.
I like where you're at with that, Trevor, because it's sort of, especially in this situation where you have some guys out. You've got Josh Burnham back. Junior Tilamaka is now the full-time starter now. You know, he's not a time to think about that. You've got Logan Thomas, RJ. I mean, there's a lot of D linemen that have a chance to say, hey, look, it's my chance now. You know, it's my chance to now do for this defense what Boubacar did in a short period of time when Batello went down, which is, okay, he's down, let me step up, you know, and make plays. And then Boubacar, who's gonna be that guy? And hopefully it's a couple. I don't know that there's one guy capable of doing what Boubacar did. I don't think Burnham is that kind of pass rusher. I think Josh is probably a little bit of a better all-around player, you know, better against the run. But Boubacar's is different as a pass rusher, you know, and that's just the reality. I don't know if anyone is like that, but, you know, maybe some guys step up and you know, just are able to say, I got this for that. So I like that one. And it'd be a nice confidence boost for the rest of the defense to see somebody at that position really step up. And like Junior Tilamaka is like, hey guys, Patel's great, Boubacar's great, but I got this.
Yeah.
Or Burnham step up and say, hey guys, we're good. We got this. Maybe even a Logan Thomas in sort of a pass rushing situation. And ideally a couple of them. It'd be nice to see Junior and Josh. Because look, these were two of the, I mean, that was a great linebacker class when it signed. I loved Burnham. I always knew Burnham might move down because he was so big and long. You knew he might outgrow the position. I did not anticipate Junior moving down, and I still don't love that move, to be completely honest with you. You know, Nolan Ziegler's had his issues, you know, no longer with the team. Jalen Seed hasn't panned out. So it hasn't really, the linebacker group has not panned out so far.
Sure.
It's got a chance now to really make an impact.
Yep.
At that Viper position with Burnham and Tuilamaka. And it'd be nice to see those guys kind of step up and raise their play and take advantage of the opportunity and step up. I'm going to stay on the D line for my next game record, Trevor, because this is more of a setting the stage for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. Here's the crazy thing. I was looking at some efficiency numbers and some people posted some on the board, right? And there's some different, you know, there's a lot of different metrics out there. And when you start looking at like efficiency numbers and what I like about efficiency numbers are the ones that kind of take into account like context of who you're playing. And Notre Dame has getting a lot of love when it comes to those ranking systems, the different aspects of how good your football team is. And when I look at this Notre Dame football team or this Notre Dame defense, and I see them doing what they're doing, and they're doing it with honestly what a lot of people thought was two of their, you know, probably two of their four best players coming into the season, along with Xavier Watson, Benjamin Morrison. You know, you start looking at it and saying, well, how good are they going to be if those guys play well? I mean, you look at the Fermo Efficiency Index. He has Notre Dame as the number one defense in college football right now. Ohio State number 2. If you look at the ESPN Football Power Index and their efficiency rankings, they have Notre Dame's defense ranked 3rd behind Tennessee and Texas. I would disagree with Texas because I don't think Texas has been really challenged yet by anybody good on offense. I think Tennessee has played pretty darn good defense so far this season. You know, but every metric you look at, they're either 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. And you start saying, well, what are they going to do in the last half of the season if Riley Mills and Howard Cross start playing like they're themselves? You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of crazy part about this is 2 of your 4 best players of actually, you could even argue, to your point, if 3 of your 4 best players on defense have not lived up to what we thought they would be. Now, I still think Benjamin Morrison's been pretty good, but no, I don't think he's as been good as I thought he was going to be. He's still been pretty good. Howard Cross and Riley Mills have not. And at times they've been bad, to be honest with you. They had their best game of the year against Louisville, the two of them. Can they build on that and really take off in the second half of the year? If they can come out and wreck this game, and then that's now two. Now you say, well, it's Stanford. I understand that, but it's now 2 games in a row where those two guys came out and balled out. If those two take their games to the level that they're capable, even just repeating what we saw last year, this defense becomes really scary good.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that they're going to face an offense like Louisville's the rest of the year. Couple maybe USC. The option teams are unique, but I don't know that I would put Georgia Tech on Louisville's level. I mean, we watched those two teams play each other. You know what I mean? And Georgia Tech's got some good receivers. I think Louisville's are better. And that game, they didn't have Colin Lacey. He's back now. You know what I mean? So, I'm tell you what, I want to see those two guys go off because I really feel like they're the final missing piece of this defense really becoming scary good and scary good against the run and the pass. That's really something that's why they are my please be game wreckers, please be game wreckers, please be game wreckers for this matchup. Because if Riley and Howard get it going, that helps take the pressure off the edge, to your other point, Trevor, right? But it also, I think, just makes this team, like, now you're just like, okay, now I don't know what to do as an offensive coach. I don't know where I'm supposed to attack now. You know, let's attack the perimeter against their edge players and allow Notre Dame's speed to take over. That's great idea. You know, because right now what teams are able to do is go right at them. That's what Northern Illinois was able to do. Miami, Ohio to a degree. Louisville's able to do that. A&M started to do that in the second half. Just go right at them. And if those two guys start playing better, you can't go right at them anymore. Not like that. And so that they're my final potential game wrecker for this game and then kind of springboarding into the second half. Because if they start dominating, then the linebackers get even better as well. And now the secondary that's created so many mistakes, they're even more disruptive because the ball's got to come out even quicker. It starts getting kind of exciting to think about, you know, if those two guys really go off. Because that's the thing is, like, when you're playing well, Trevor, and everything's clicking, you're like, look, there's no way you can keep clicking like this for 12. You're going to, you know, but so you're looking at like, okay, Benjamin Morrison hasn't been as dominant as we thought. Jack Kaiser's been okay. You know, Mills and Cross aren't really taking off. Like, yeah, but you still got the number 1 defense in college football. You know what I mean? Like, what happens if those 3 guys start going off? And that's why they're all, for one reason or another, part of our game record conversation for this week.
I couldn't agree more. You and I touched on yesterday how hard it is to have an effective passing game when you're getting pressure right up the middle in your face. And Notre Dame's defense has been really good without them. I don't want to say without because, yeah, they're still on the field and they're still playing, but argument
how about
could be
this
made
without them dominating? How
yes,
about that?
100%.
Because I don't know that I'd say without them because that makes it seem like they're not doing anything.
Sure.
At times, that's been true,
mm-hmm.
but not completely. But
they have
I know what you meant. I knew what you meant without them being what we thought they would be.
And now against Stanford, they have the opportunity to go out and prove why they decided to come back to Notre Dame, which is really exciting. I mean, the D-line as a whole, if I'm an opposing offensive coordinator, I'm trying to game plan against this defense. What the ends have the opportunity to do is, you know, if I'm an offensive coordinator going up against Notre Dame, I'm like, thank God they're down to their 3rd string Viper. And then you go and you look and you're like, golly, like we can't game plan against this guy. Well, at least they've been a little underwhelming in the middle of the defense. Oh, well, now they're starting to turn it on. And, you know, so then it's just, I mean, it even goes back to the conversation with A.O. Manor. Like, it's, all right, well, we're going to move him against Christian Gray. It's like, well, argument could be made that Christian Gray should be leading college football with interceptions this year if he could catch, you know? So it's just, this defense can hurt you in so many ways, and they haven't even unlocked 40% of the ways that they can do it yet. So I love Howard Cross and Riley Mills as 2 game wreckers. Excited to see how they come out and play. I hope they build off of the momentum and the performance that they had against Louisville, and they use the bye week a little bit to get back in the film room, kind of come back down into their own and say, all right, time to turn it on, you know, take it week by week now and reevaluate what they look like at the next bye week. I'm with you.
That's going to do it for the game wreckers part of this conversation, Trevor. If you could predict, well, actually, no, it's not, because I want to ask you this one. I'm going to have some fun with this one. If you could predict one guy that you think whose name is not Xavier Watts or Benjamin Morrison, who's going to be a game wrecker against this team, who would it be?
I'm going to say Drake Bowen in the run game, because he's one of those guys, another one of those guys that has shown flashes, and those flashes are starting to become a little bit more consistent as the season starts to go on. But I think he really turns the corner after getting back into the film room during the bye week, seeing where he can make his improvements and continuing to build off of the confidence that he's getting, because he's already week over week playing faster and more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he really starts to turn it on during Stanford week, which I'm really excited for. Ashton Daniels is a dynamic runner, and I think Drake Bowen has a hand in kind of containing 14 in the backfield. So he's going to be mine.
I dig that. I'm actually not sure where I'm going. I think it's going to be an edge guy, to be honest with you. I like your idea. I thought about maybe Kingston or Jaden Alsbury. I'm going to go with somebody on the edge. I'm going to go with you know what? Here's my game wrecker. Logan Thomas. I think Logan Thomas is going to have a couple big third down or passing situation pressures where he's going to make some big plays. He's not going to play a ton, but when he plays, he's going to have some big plays. I'll tell you who I hope it is. What would be the one, oh, wow, that guy broke out, that you think would be the most meaningful for you for the rest of the season if he can build on that? What would be the one?
RJ Oben would be mine.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. If this is the kind of, okay, again, you got through the bye, get it back in the film, figure out what's going on, and become the guy that we thought you were going to be. That's the thing is, Trevor, like Rod Hurd hasn't played great so far, but he's coming off of his best game. RJ Oben was bad the first 4 games. He was not bad against Louisville. He wasn't great by any stretch, but he wasn't bad. He was active. He's playing hard. Riley Mills, Howard, and Cross haven't really dominated the way that we hoped they would be. Jack Kaiser's still kind of in a transition to a different position type of situation, and you're just like, dude, if the veterans outside of Xavier Watts started playing to their potential, good Lord. I mean, in a lot of ways, this team has been carried by their young guys. Outside of Xavier Watts and Jordan Pataho and Jordan Clark, this team has been carried so far by its young players. The veterans step up, look out. That's the crazy thing about this defense, because they're not playing like, I don't know how they can play any better. I'm looking at the numbers of the defense. I'm like, they played Texas A&M, they've played Louisville, and I'm thinking like, good Lord, there's like a bunch of things I would want to improve if I'm them. I mean, you can listen to Al Golden talking. Al Golden doesn't think this defense has reached its peak. You can just listen to him talking. You're like, he knows that this defense is going to be a lot better. This is what happens when you're really talented. And that's what Notre Dame fans are experiencing right now on defense. And this is a comment that Brian Kelly made a number of years ago. And he's one of the most accurate things he's ever said is like, look, offensively, I can kind of scheme my way into some success. And you can. And they got to do a better job of it. But when it comes to defense, like it's about the Jimmies and the Joes a lot more than. And now, yes, you've got to be well coached, because we see teams with Jimmies and Joes who suck on defense. But you need, it's like, oh, well, what about Iowa? How many guys has Iowa put in the first and second round of the NFL draft the last 10 years? A lot. They're getting dudes. They're just not highly ranked dudes. With Notre Dame right now, what you're seeing is this is what it looks like when you have good coaching and really talented players. To where in the past, if Isaiah Foskey had a bad game, Notre Dame's defense had a bad game. If Manti had a bad game or Lewis Nix was out, the defense struggled. When we saw that against Pitt in 2012, all the change in that game was Lewis Nix was out in the first half, and that all of a sudden Notre Dame's defense looked average. Yeah. Then they put Lewis Nix back in the second half, and all of a sudden their defense is just shutting Pitt down again. Manti's going crazy and all that kind of stuff. It's like this defense. It's like there's so much speed and athleticism on this defense. There's 7, 8, 9 plays a game where you're like, oh, they're out of position, and it's like 2-yard gain because they're just so fast. As they start figuring that stuff out more and the veterans start playing well, oh boy, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think a lot of fun to watch.
It's just been from a fan standpoint, it's just such a fun adjustment to watch. Like I was watching Louisville use Isaac Brown and try to get him on the perimeter because he's our fast guy. We don't want to run into the teeth of this Notre Dame defense, and we have speed. And Notre Dame's defense as a whole was faster than Louisville's fastest guy. which is just so fun to watch and see. It's just been such an adjustment from previous teams in the past. So, Bryan, to your point, if the veterans start playing like veterans, I mean, that's just going to be
fun.
Yeah.
Very, very fun. So, Trevor, that's going to do it for the defensive portion of today's show. And you know what's next, right? You know what we got coming up next? We're going to have some Buy, Sell, Hold. But before we get to Buy, Sell, Hold, folks, do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Share this podcast. Give us a 5-star review. And, of course, as always, got a couple recruiting intel pieces up on the message board today and yesterday. So you're going to want to check those out. About a D lineman that's going to be visiting here very soon. Got something on that. A little nugget on a quarterback prospect that some people think is a target of Notre Dame, but is not. And we'll have some more recruiting stuff coming up here as we get closer. Now that they're out of the bye week, they've kind of zeroed in on what their needs are, and so you're going to start hearing a lot more in that regard as well. So I have another intel piece coming up here later tonight, just kind of with an overview of where things stand with the recruiting. But that's only going to be found on the premium message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com.